more, to be mizbaining, to contemplate and to meditate some thoughts, and that's where we left it, right? So let's just get right back into it. Can someone just say where it is on your format, like what page, what column? Okay. Okay, we're going to start from the word right, so we started by saying how everything in the world is being literally life being pumped into it by the mazalis, right? And who are the mazalis getting life force from? They're getting it from the Ifanim, and the Ifanim are getting it from the Malachim, right? And who are the Malachim getting it from? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking here. Something's wrong here. I just had it here. So it's 13. Here, 14. Right. And it's here. It's on 14, the third paragraph, the last paragraph on the bottom. Okay? Because I will wrap it. So, all these, these millions and millions of things that are going on, right, in the world, and all the mazzalis, and all the angels, and the malachim, and this level angel, that level angel. There's like a whole system here going on, right? And everyone is literally making this world be able to be from no thing to something. And right, if we trace it all back to its source, it's Hashem himself who's literally giving a life force and pumping life into everything, right? What we said, Ki malchus shel chahi, right? The malchus, the kingship, the one who really controls everything, the one who it's his kingdom over here, okay? It's Hashem himself pumping life into it, okay? And that's what we experience. We experience a world where everything just exists, everything is, things just run, things just go, Baruch Hashem. But we have to realize that it's really Hashem speaking it into being at every single moment anew. Because if not, if Hashem would decide that he doesn't want this world to exist, he just stops speaking or thinking it. And that's it. It just goes back to nothing, to nothing. So that is the idea of the fact that really, 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 we have to stop taking this world so seriously. And realizing that is really just somebody just like putting everything in its place and giving life to everything. And the same way Hashem can create this situation right now like this, he can also change it like this. Like nothing is so embedded in stone. Now he goes on to say, that's where we're up to. It's still part of the meditation, and he says that in other words, what we're experiencing in this world is really just a ziv means a ray of the Shechina, right, of Hashem's light. Bilvad, alone. It's only just a ray, a glimmer, be'alma bilvad, in this world alone. If compare it to the essence, right, of Hashem, kaviyachal, so to say. Shehu b'chinas ein sof mamish, because Hashem is an infinite light, right? Haya haya v'yeh. He was, he is, and he will be. Bli shinoi mamish, without any change whatsoever. Why is he bringing the word change here? Because we would think, right, if Hashem is one and uniquely singular and alone, right, and then he creates a world, what might we think? That there's something other than him, right? If Hashem creates a world, and not only a world, there are other planets, right? There's a lot going on, right? And he creates so many things that now seem to have an existence, an independent existence, a structure, right? So you would think that his singularity and his unique oneness is now being compromised because there's something other than him. He created something outside of himself. But the Alter Rebbe always says that that's not true. Nothing that he created compromises his unique oneness. Why? How do we understand that? There's a whole world. What's the answer? God didn't change. God didn't change before he created the world or after he created the world. He still stayed the same God, the same one as before. How do we explain it? You never learned this? You did. So you want to explain it? No. Okay. Sarla? No? Okay. So it's all part of Hashem. It's all inside him. You understand? So it's not like anything left his oneness or anything compromises his oneness. It's all still inside of him. And now when we look at Hashem himself, right? And we realize that the creation of the world is really just him speaking, right? Or thinking, right? Parts of it are thinking, like Asiyadin, Alu b'machshava, we came up in his thought. But the world, it says straight out, happened through Asara Maamar Nivra Elam. Hashem created the world through speech. Okay? And speech is something that's very external, right? If I talk to you, right? I'm not revealing my essence to you. There's a little part of me that you're being exposed to, but there's so much more inside, right? Speech is a very external thing. So this is exactly what we're saying here. We live in a world, we're experiencing only the ray of God. God himself is essence. That is, he's infinite. It's an infinite light, and we're not even touching the tip of what we're just touching the tip. You get it? So there's so much more there, and there's so much more. We're just experiencing the ray, and to know that nothing changed Hashem, right? That's the last thing we did. Nothing changed about his unique oneness. Mayimar, like it says, Atahu kodim shenivra v'atahu la'achar shenivra. You are the same God before you created the world, and you are the same God after you created the world. Okay? So this is the end of the meditation. The acharei hal-hizbainos, and after this meditation, kol haner everything that we mentioned above, the oimek hadas, if you really, really think about it in a deep way, what should it do for you? Tis airer nafshay. It should arouse your soul. B'fchinas ahava, to love, utshuka, and to yearn, nifla'a, a wondrous yearning. Kirishpe eish, like the flames of a fire. Latseis, to go out, mitaycha choshech, from the darkness. Va'elem, and the concealment. Hagashmi, the physical. Hazeh, this one. V'rak lo dafka b'yizbarach, and just to want to cling to Hashem. So what did the Alter Rebbe just say now? He took us through the process, okay? We find ourselves in darkness. We find ourselves with material, physical worries, right? Hardships, challenges, and we find ourselves there. So we said, number one, don't run away from it, because there's something waiting for you inside. Okay, there's a deep light that's waiting underneath the darkness. And then the biggest question always is, but I'm afraid to go in there because I'm afraid that I'm going to get lost there. And that's where we realize that you won't get lost if you can surrender and let Hashem hold your hand there. Okay, that's really what he's describing here. Like, go into the teva of tefillah, go into the words of tefillah, go into davening, meditate about Hashem's greatness, and realize, and that's where you get the strength. That's what he says. Your soul gets aroused with this yearning to want to come out of the darkness and to reconnect to the source of all life. Does that make sense? Yeah? In other words, think about it like this, okay? When I'm not connected to my godliness, right? When I don't know that my source is really good, and that's really the point of this Maamar. He says, Mayim Rabim, nothing in the world you're never doomed forever. Guess why? Because you have a godly soul. So now, it's really true. There is a very valid fear if someone doesn't know their essential goodness and their essential purity, and if someone is not aware of their godly soul, for them it's very true to be afraid to go into dark places, because what's ever going to be able to pull them out? You get what I'm saying? We don't have to be afraid of going there because we always have what to come back to. The godly soul is always going to schlep you out of there if you allow yourself, right? And if you understand, you embrace, right? You know, that's the whole point. You know deep down who you are. But again, you can only reach that if you first can go through the things that are blocking you from reaching it. You get it? But don't be afraid of drowning in the darkness, because you always have what to come back to. You always have something that right, your godly soul, and think about it. Think about how Hashem is the one, and that really that's where you come from. You have that infinite power inside of you. So why would you decide that you need to stay in the darkness for the rest of your life? Okay? So that's number one. So that's number two, right? To go into davening, okay? And to really, really give up control. U'kamei shekasav, and like it says, Mi liba shamayim ve'imcha loy chafatzti. Who do I have in the heavens? With you I desire. Right? In other words, at the end of the day, we always desire to be close to godliness. Chulu. Shelo yachpetz klal loy began eden atachton. That really what we desire is not even Gan Eden, the lower Gan Eden, v'loy began eden ha'elyon, and we don't desire the higher Gan Eden. Shehem rak bechina ziva ara bilvad. Because again, going back to what we said yesterday, all these rewards, right? Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, paradise, all these, Olam Haba, is experiencing, and it's true, it's a very real pleasure. It's experiencing the rays of Hashem, but it's just the ray itself. Okay? Right? And it says that tzaddikim sit and they enjoy this light. They take pleasure in the rays of the Shekhinah. But what do we really desire? We don't really desire the reward. We don't really desire to sit there and enjoy the light. What we really desire is l'dafka bay, to cling to Him. Yisbarach, to cling to Hashem. Likolol b'fchinas mahusay b'atzmusay Yisbarach, and to be subsumed in His essence. V'nikras b'zayar HaKodesh, and in the Zayar he calls it le'ishtaba begufa, to be absorbed in His body. Le'ishtaba begufa d'malka, to be absorbed in the body of the king. So remember, Gan Eden is just the ray of the Shekhinah, and what we can accomplish right here, right now, is to actually have intimacy with Hashem Himself alone. So I'm not enjoying the ray, I'm really connecting to Him on a very essential level. And that's really what our Nefesh Elikis desires. V'nikres b'chinas ahava zu. Now this kind of love that we're describing about really connecting to Hashem in His essence alone, this love is called tshuva. Why? Why is that called tshuva? Why is that returning? Shehu bechila yeser, and it's in a greater strength. Shabbat dafka mitaycha chayshech, because it's coming. What does tshuva mean? We spoke a lot about this before the Chagim, right? Before Yom Tiv. We said, what is tshuva? What is the essence of tshuva? Why is it called returning? Anybody? Why is it called returning? Where am I returning to? I'm returning to my true self. In other words, I got messed up, right? My godly soul was put into a material, physical body, material world. I experience myself as something separate from oneness, something separate from Hashem. I experience the world as a separate entity from Hashem. I take the world very seriously. I take money very seriously. I take my ego very seriously, right? These are all things that keep me separated from my truth, from my oneness. Because in essence, I'm one with Hashem. That's my godly soul. My godly soul comes from Hashem. It's a piece of Hashem. It's one with it. And as long as I treat myself and view myself as something separate from that oneness, I'm not who I am. So tshuva means to be able to return to that oneness, right? To be able to remember, rediscover myself anew. Know that who I am is really one with Hashem. Okay? And we said there's a whole process, right? Because there are many things that block us, many things that make us feel separate. And then we feel separate, so we feel scared. So then we start, doing all these different kinds of survival mechanisms to help us try to control the fear. And we just push ourselves further and further away from that oneness. So tshuva, this kind of love comes from tshuva, is a greater kind of tshuva. And it's a greater kind of love. Why? Because it's coming from the distance. In other words, right, think about it. When two people are close together, right, and they're really close and they're enjoying each other's company and they're having a good time, right? That's beautiful. We're not minimizing that. But then imagine if those two people who love each other so much are separated for 2 years and then they come back together. Can we compare that reunion to what they originally had before? Can we compare it? Which one is deeper? Which one is stronger? The second one, right? In other words, as soon as there's a distance, there's something that pushes us apart. But then in that pushing apart, it seems very dark. It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on and it's threatening our connection. But then in that darkness, I discover that I'm still connected. And then from that place, we come back together again. That is something that, first of all, that's called tshuva, because again, you were somewhere, then you went away, and then you returned. But that kind of return is infinitely greater than what you had before you were separated. Okay? So listen, it's very, very powerful what he says now. Okay? He's going to explain now, right? Until now, we explained why. Right? We explained why do we have all these fears, anxieties? Why does Hashem take our soul and put it down into this world? Why would he take that risk? We explained why. Because we said there's something that your soul, your godly soul, is going to be able to attain that is way deeper than what it had before. Now, he's a little bit moving into how and for what purpose. Okay? Because you're busy dealing with worldly matters and the vanities of the world, and from there you read, even from that place that seems so far from godliness, you discover godliness. That is a much greater closeness. Because the greater light comes specifically from the darkness. And this love is called B'chol Ma'adecha. Okay, so what do we say in Shema every day? We say Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. Right? What do we say in Shema? B'chol Levavcha, with all your heart. B'chol Nafshecha, with all your soul. And what's B'chol Ma'adecha? With all your variness. So in the Siddur, it says with all your might. And there are many, many different translations. Like if you look in different sources, one will say with all your money, one will say with all your power. But really, the Alter Rebbe says, 1 second, what does this mean? Me'oidecha. What does me'oid mean? Very. In other words, I could say, I love you, right? I could say, I love you, and I could say, I love you very much. Okay, now, but very, what properties does very carry? Is there a certain amount that I can put with the word very? No, because very always means what? More than whatever it is that we're talking about. In other words, very is relative, right? So what the Alter Rebbe says here is that this b'chol ma'adecha is we're touching something bligvol. Bligvol means something that is without boundary. In other words, infinity. We're touching a love that's infinite. Can you imagine? We're finite people living in a finite world. Okay? We're like these complicated people. We have the Nefesh Bahamas, the Nefesh kids, we have a lot going on. And within this human experience and within this physical world where we find ourselves, we can actually touch infinity. We can love Hashem in an infinite kind of way. But the crazy part is he's saying, where does this love, this infinite kind of love come? From a place of very, ma'ay? That means that it's not, it's literally unlimited. He says only through the darkness. The darkness, okay, the darkness is what's going to bring out that b'chol me'odecha. So me'odecha means with all my veriness, but it also means that what am I touching? I'm touching infinite. I'm touching an infinite amount. Means that it's not the kind of love that is really in the realm of this world, right? It's not the kind of love that we could even describe. And you know what? We could talk about it. We could talk about it in the Alter, but it's just explaining. At the end of the day, it's something that has to be an experience. I mean, right? You can't, it's hard to describe an experience, right? Yeah? But really, the Alter Rebbe talks about it so much and explains it. You might say, oh, but even the Alter Rebbe is explaining is here, right? It's not here. It's like it's still in the mind, right? He's talking about it. But really, the Alter Rebbe wants to bring us to a place where he's trying to show us that we can integrate the two. You understand? It's not just nice ideas. It can be integrated. Okay. Okay. So this b'chol ma'adecha means that this kind of love is something that touches infinity. Okay? So in other words, it's not, right, I love you and I love you very much, that I love you more than a little bit more. He's saying it's almost a new reality. It's a new reality. It takes us to a new realm. It takes us to a new space. Okay? V'nikris ahavazu, this kind of love is called b'chinas b'chol ma'idecha, with all your veriness. Shehu bli gvul, that is without limit. Mamish, literally. Sheba dafka min hahafach. Now listen what he says. You know where this infinite kind of love comes from? Specifically, okay? These are the Alter Rebbe's words. Dafka min hahafach. From the opposite. Opposite of what? What? In other words, right, it's so interesting. We think just the opposite. We think, right, that there are certain things about me that work, right? This I have figured out. Over here, I'm in a space where, like, I get it, Hashem. It's all good. I have it worked out. Things are like, things are in order. Yeah? And we think, oh, this is where I get to love Hashem and express my love, and probably Hashem loves me. Kind of, I don't know what kind of thoughts come in. And he says, no. Do you know where you can reach even a deeper love? In the places where it looks the opposite. It's actually over here, it's chaotic. Over here, I do not have this figured out at all. So it comes specifically from the hafach, the opposite. Shehu ha'chayshech, that is the darkness. U'k'mayshe kasav, listen to what he says next. It's unbelievable. Just like it says, I lost the place, sorry. U'k'mayshe kasav, toiv ze malachayim, toiv ma'ay ze malachamavis. What is he referring to? When Hashem created the world, what does it say? Vayar lekim Vayar lekim es kol asher asa v'hine toiv. Right? Anyone doesn't sound familiar? Where is this pasuk coming from? Bereshis, good. Bereshis, when Hashem creates the world, right? He says at the end of the days, he says, so over there's a very interesting explanation. So really, at some points he says Taiv, and then suddenly, at one point he says Vehine Taiv Me'oid. So over there, it's explained that Taiv is Malach HaChaim, the angel of life, and guess what's Taiv Me'oid? Yes. Me'oid ze Malach HaMaves. Sha'al Yedei HaHavach v'HaCheshech Dafka. Why is the Malach HaMaves Taiv Me'oid? Again, we have this word Me'oid. Me'oid means infinite. I'm able to reach something so much greater. It's specifically through the angel of death. Why? Because because it's specifically through the opposite of light and the darkness, specifically, and that is the nefesh habahamis. That we are able to come to the ability to love Hashem with all our veriness, an infinite kind of love, a very deep love. Shehu bli gvul mamish, that is without any boundaries. Literally. Can you imagine? The angel of death is what allows me to reach a place of deep, deep, deep love. How do we understand that? What does the angel of death look like? Right, sometimes we look at ourselves and we're like, there's something, like a part of me just feels dead. Or we're facing a challenge that feels like it's going to kill me, right? Or we decided that, you know, like, I don't know if you, tell me if you can relate to this, but like things happen in life and we decided that, okay, at that point, a part of me died and that's it. It's over. And I already start defining myself based on that. And I already, that's it. The definition is set in stone. A part of me died and could never, nothing, like that's it. I'm doomed, right? The Alter Rebbe is saying something so profound here. He's saying it's specifically in those places where you either feel like you're going to, right, you're literally feel like you're dying, or that a place of you that feels dead. It's the places that drive you the most crazy. It's specifically there. The things that make you hate yourself the most. Okay? It's over there that lays the deepest form of renewal and rebirth and reconnection for you with Hashem and with yourself. Because look, from Hashem's perspective, those things are tov me'od. You get it? From our perspective, it's bad, right? From our perspective, it's bad. From Hashem's perspective, it's tov me'od. It's your entrance to infinity. It's your entrance to infinite life, infinite love, infinite pureness, infinite happiness. Really just a deep, real connection. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of your anxiety, of your fears, of your darkness, of the things that you hate about yourself, of your shortcomings. Don't be afraid of it. Because we all have dark places, right? We all have dark places. We all have stuff that we need to deal with. The question that you need to ask yourself is, do I run away from it? Do I get angry at it? Anger is another form of escape. Do I repress it? That's another one. But you have to remember, right, when looking at chaos, looking at darkness, you have to remember that if you're going to run away from it, if you're going to repress it, if you're going to blame, if you're going to be angry, you're losing an opportunity to reach your tov me'od. Okay. Now, let's understand a little bit why. Why does it look so dark? If it's Taiv Me'oid, why is it so chaotic? Why is it so dark? And by the way, when the darkness comes to you, it doesn't tell you, hi, I'm really the good light. It doesn't talk to you that way. You have to remember what we learned in class. It comes and it says, I'm going to wipe you out. So now he's going to explain why it's like that, okay? V'hainu, lefi shebeshar shalem mayla shayrish nefesh abahamis gavoya yoyser mebchinas nefesh alikis. You have to understand that the root of the nefesh abahamis, of your animal soul, is really coming from a much higher place than the godly soul. It's so funny how he just like throws it out like this, like one line, and it's like, whoa, what just happened? Really? Like, we're always like, nefesh alikis, nefesh alikis, nefesh alikis. Nefesh abahamis is like, you know, the troublemaker who I have to like, literally just like, and some people do. Some people just keep fighting it, running away from it, yelling at it. And he's saying something so deep here. He's saying, realize that your nefesh abahamis comes from a higher source than the nefesh alikis. And if that's the case, then what? If it comes from a higher source, then it has something higher to offer you. If you could deal with it properly. Kamaisha Kasav, like it says, Ve'ela hamalachim asher malchu chulu. In Parshas Bereshis, there is a part where we don't put so much focus on it because it's quite boring. But it talks about that there were many kings, not many, there's 7 kings. Ela hamalachim asher malchu lifnei melech lebnei Israel. There were 7 kings that ruled before the Jews had a king. Okay? Now, and then it goes on to, list the names of these kings. And each king ruled and died. 7 kings. And then the Jews get a king. So, in the Parsha, it seems like just another boring, a bunch of facts that we just like run through. Who cares, right? But according to Kabbalah, it's actually extremely relevant. And it says these kings that ruled and died 7 times are actually from the world of, you know this already, we did this already. What are we talking about? What ruled and died? Good, thank you. Tayu, the world of Tayu. Sorry, I hope I didn't use Tehillim name. Okay, so we have the world of Tayu. The world of Tayu is Mayim like Vayanos. In other words, it ruled, but then it died. It ruled and it died. Okay? That is the Nefesh HaBahamis. The Nefesh HaBahamis comes from the world of Tayu. The world of Tayu is the world of chaos. Okay? Why? Why is it called the world of chaos? So let's just explain a little bit. I know that we already did this a little bit, but let's just explain again. Everything in this world is always going to have the relationship of Oiros and Kalim. What is that? What's Oiros are lights, and Kalim are vessels. Everything in this world is always going to have that partnership. Okay? Because they can't exist without each other. In other words, let's talk practically. Okay, Iris are the ideas we have, and the Kalim are what? How to like practically put it together. In other words, I can envision, right? In every business, you need to have the people that are Iris. You need to have the people that are the visionaries, right? The ones that see, we're going to make $1 billion in 1 year. And then, if the business really wants to be successful, they need to hire people that are Kalim. That means the people that are practical. Okay, I hear your beautiful, gorgeous, nice ideas, but how are we making this happen? Practically speaking, how is this going to work? Okay? Now, Iris and Kalim always have to work together because, again, you can have all the ideas in the world. Right? But then again, if you can't practically apply it, if you can't put it into a keli, it can't exist really. It can't, what's the word? It can't come to fruition. Okay? Do Iris like Kaylin? Yeah? Yes and no. Because, you know, like these people that have like, they're like, oh my gosh, I have an awesome idea. My kids do it all the time with me. I'm so mean. I'm like the Kaylin one. My daughter's like, I have an awesome idea for Tati's birthday. Let's do this and this and that. And I'm like, no, not practical. Right? And she's like, hey, you just killed my entire idea. Right? And the Kalim don't necessarily always like the Iris because they're like, okay, you're in La La Land. Can you just like land and sit down and calm down? You know? It's always like that. Always. Always. You ever have these people that are like, and it's beautiful because when it does come out with the right Kalim, it a lot happens, right? But I remember when I was head counselor in camp, like right before I got married. That last summer, I was head counselor in camp. Now, being a head counselor is a lot of fun, at least for my personality. Like, I was really excited. When they asked me to do it, I was like, sure, I'm all in. I was so excited. You just think about it. You just get to like jump and stage and dance and sing and right. And I guess I have more of a leader kind of personality. So just getting everyone to do something and work as a team is just very gratifying, right? And we got together the whole winter, like from Hanukkah till the summer, me and my partner, and we had major, like really fun original ideas, right? A lot of ideas that, you know, this is what we're gonna do. And I told you, we did the craziest things that no one ever did before us, like nuts, totally crazy. For example, like we were the first ones to take, I don't know how, maybe in the Chabad camps they do it, but in the Beisample camps they never did it, to take the camp like on an overnight, where like everybody literally slept out on in a camping site without even tents, because we're not gonna go buy tents now. Everyone just took a blanket and a pillow and slept like outside. And we had like a campfire in the middle of the night. Like that was like, maybe now they do it already, but in my days it was like I said, okay, let's do something different, right? But I still remember coming to camp and then having all these beautiful ideas and everything was written down on a calendar. We knew exactly what's going to happen every day. But then when you had to do the practical things to like put things together, suddenly I felt like, oh, this is not fun. You get what I'm saying? The Kalim, for me, were like, okay, 1 minute. The Iris are very nice, but listen, if someone is not going to go and do X, Y, and Z, this idea is not going to happen tomorrow. I still remember that. Like, my partner saying, like, okay, to be, like, seriously. And I'm like, no, Peter. Like, listen, if you want this to happen, this is what has to happen. So the Iris and Kalim they always need to work together, but they don't necessarily want to work together always. So what happens is, when Hashem first created the world, right, it says, Haaretz sayu vavayu. So what came first? Now don't think of it as in a time frame. What came first and what came next? Spiritually speaking, because it's not like Olam HaTorah doesn't exist anymore. It does. You understand? So it's like came first and then second. It's spiritually what came first is the Olam HaTorah. What happens by Olam HaTorah? There was Iris Merubim, the Kalim Muatim. There was way too many light. Much too much light. So the light was huge, but the vessels were small. And therefore, they literally, the world couldn't handle it. There was too much light, too much electricity, too much energy. And they collided, they bumped into each other. And the Kalim broke. And that's where we have this concept of Shiras HaKalim, that the Kalim broke and all the light just fell down. So now we have sparks, Nitzaitzim, we have sparks of the light of Olam HaTorah, which is really divine energy, divine light, all over the world, spread around. And now in this world, in Olam HaTikun, right, then Hashem created the Olam HaTikun, on the leftover sparks of light everywhere, but in Olam HaTikun, it's Iris Mu'atim and Kalim Merubim. In other words, the Kalim now are much bigger and the lights are much smaller. And what we're doing really is we need to be able to excavate and to literally, excavate is the word. Those sparks of light and integrate them back, right? So it's not like we're really, the point now is that we're taking the light of Tayu and putting them back into Kalim, and so now the integration of both are happening, and that is really the healing process of those lights, right? Okay, so you have to realize that anything dark in this world, and anything that, right, your darkness, your pain, your hardships, your fears, your anxieties, all those things are really a window to your Olam HaTayu. They're a window to your Olam HaTayu. And if you could look at it, and if you could heal it, right, and bring it back to its divine source, then you're gaining something infinitely greater than just sticking with what's light beforehand. You get what I'm saying? I mean to say, you could stay in your comfort zone. You could say, this works. Here I feel safe. Here I feel, okay, this place I can go, you know? But again, you're losing an opportunity for something infinitely deeper, infinitely greater. So I would say, if there's something that you're really avoiding, go there. Go there. Because that is your window to your Olam HaTayu. So the Nefesh HaBahamis comes from the Olam HaTayu. The Nefesh Elikis comes from Olam HaTikon. And so what's the goal here? The Nefesh Elikis needs to heal the Nefesh HaBahamis. The Nefesh Elikis needs to heal the Nefesh HaBahamis. But in this process of healing, the Nefesh HaBahamis gives something very profound and deep to the Nefesh Elikis. It's giving it something. It's offering something to the Nefesh Elikis that it can't have without the Nefesh HaBahamis. Okay? Olam HaTayu is very authentic. It's very genuine. It's very real. Because think about it. It's just divine energy. So it looks chaotic. It's all over the place. It's like, it doesn't have, what's the word? It's not coherent. Yeah? It doesn't have, it's like, it makes no sense. That's why it's like, rah, all over the place, right? But think about it. If I can take it and integrate it, right? So now I'm getting something very deep, very real, but I'm integrating it into taking it from being chaotic to something that can actually exist in a very normal, fashion. Okay? So that's the idea of source of healing. So now let's read it inside quickly. Okay? Oh, so we said the Malachim, the kings that ruled and died, is talking about Olam HaTayu. Ve'ela HaMalachim asher malchu chulu lifnei melech malach l'bnei Yisrael, even before the Jews had a king. Shehu b'chinas nefesh elikis. This is the idea of the godly soul. Rak she'al yedei shviras hakelim, but through the breaking of the vessels, naflu l'mata, they fell down, mata, very low down. Kamaisha kasava yimlech vayamas, like it says that they ruled and they died. Chulu. Aval b'shar sham, but in their source, in their root, heim l'mayla b'chinas nefesh elikis. In their source, they're much higher than the godly soul. V'lazais gam k'may shenaflu l'mata, yesh lahem tagbura ithal nefesh elikis, mipnei sheshar sham hu b'chinas melucha. So think about it. He says, even after they fell down, very low down, they still have some kind of tagbura. They have some kind of power over the nefesh elikis. Why? Because their source comes from a place of royalty. Shehu b'chinas v'snasus, which is the concept of elevation. So think about it, right? If somebody was a king, okay? If somebody was a king and taken into captivity, right? Or something happened, he's not a king anymore. There's something about him that always remains a king, right? That's the Nefesh HaBahamis. The Nefesh HaBahamis comes down into this Eilam Atikon as chaos, right? Because it comes from Eilam Atayu. It's very afraid. It's very scared. It needs to survive. It wants to be comfortable. That's the Nefesh HaBahamis. That's our animal soul, right? But in essence, it has some kind of royalty that is more powerful than that of the godly soul. Why? Because its source, its root, comes from a higher place of the godly soul. Okay? V'gam ha'adam mekabel chayas mebchinas behemoth u'machalim. And now he says something very interesting. He says, the person relies on, in a certain sense, by the way, we need animals. Why do we need animals? Food. He's like, we're dependent on animals because we're dependent on food from them. And without them, we wouldn't be able to survive. On the other hand, food don't need people. Right? They don't need us. We need them. And this is all because in their source they come from a higher place of the souls. And it's because of this, through the enclosement of the Nefesh Kiss, in the Nefesh HaBahamis specifically, now we have to busy ourselves with the burdens and the thoughts of livelihood in Yanim Gashmiim and physical matters. Rabim, those are called the many waters, and I know as we mentioned above, it's because and through the integration of the godly soul and the animal soul, through being able to excavate my sparks of light from Eilam Atayu, which come through the Nefesh HaBahamis. My husband is bringing my baby. Is he here? No. It's through those things. 1 second. Okay. It's through those things that it's through it's through the working through the Nefesh HaBahamis, going through the darkness, going through the material world, going through the fears. It's through that I come to love Hashem with my veriness. With the ma'id. Shehu bli gvul, this is without any boundaries, as we mentioned above. And this is a higher level than what the godly soul had before it came down into the body. Because remember we said, before the soul came down into the body, it was just enjoying the ray. Hello? You're here? Okay. I'm coming. Okay. Just wait a second, okay? I want to finish that paragraph. This is a higher level. Before your godly soul was put down into a physical body. This is a higher, we're attaining something deeper. Because it was just enjoying the rays of Hashem. Now, through Iskafia and Ishapcha. Now again, all this work of Iskafia means to subdue. Ishapcha means to transform. What are we subduing and what are we transforming? The godly soul or the animal soul? The animal soul. This is what we're busy with. Our whole life we're dealing with the darkness. We're dealing with the chaos. We're subduing it and we're transforming it. But it's through that work, through the darkness specifically, we're going to attain the light that comes from the darkness. And nothing compares to that kind of light. That light is way brighter than the original light that we have. We mentioned this before. Because remember, this light, the chaos of the Nefesh HaBahamis, its root and source is from a much higher place than that of the godly soul. As we mentioned above, Again, we said because it comes from such a high place, it falls really low down, and that's why it looks really dark and really ugly and really chaotic over here. But really, in its source, it's coming from a very high place, and it has what to give us. As it's written, he ruled and he died. And through Eskafia, Nase Trias Hamesim. Whoa. What did he just say? Through Eskafia, what happens? The dead becomes alive. Yes. There's a lot to say on this, but I guess we have to wrap up, so we can continue. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Mercy Shem on Wednesday. Now, what are you so scared of? He's holding on for dear life, and he won't look at you. Okay. Thank you.